Hey everyone, Marcello here from GameCube Galaxy, and today I'm going to be doing a video response that my good friend Dave over at Lame Dad Retro Gamer tagged me in a few weeks ago, which was for a video about his top 10 most memorable games. Now, these aren't necessarily games that are our favorite games of all time or anything like that, but rather these are games that we have personal stories tied to, so certain experiences or certain memories that we want to share. Now, the video is for all platforms, but for me personally, I am tweaking it to only GameCube videos just for mine personally. At the end of the video, I will also be tagging 3 other content creators to also share their personal top 10 most memorable games, and which you can cover all platforms. Like I stated, for this one, I'm going to just keep it as GameCube only, just because to do of all time, for me personally, it's gonna be more than 10. But for GameCube, it's more than 10 for that too, but I'm going to stick to just 10. So, without further ado, let's dive in. So my first pick is going to be Burnout 2, Point of Impact. Burnout 2, Point of Impact, I remember reading this in magazines and I loved the first game. I remember going to my neighbor's house to play the first game back in the day, and I actually beat it for him because the final race was insane. If I'm not mistaken, it was almost a 30-minute long race. When the second one was coming out, I saw a lot of great reviews, but one of the things that intrigued me was the fact that audio and the soundtrack actually adjusted based on how you were playing, and it was almost a cinematic feel. So at the time, I remember watching movies like Fast and the Furious, Gone in 60 Seconds, and I was hoping that the soundtrack would be something along those lines, but the soundtrack here is actually quite good. But the reason I actually have a really fond memory of this game also is because this was at a time when I created bootleg custom soundtracks. So what I mean with bootleg custom soundtracks is, if you remember composite cables, you know, those yellow, white, and red cables back in the day, I used to take one of the audio cables and swap it with my DVD player audio cable. So what I would do is I would put in a CD in my DVD player, and then I would have the audio on one speaker from the game and the audio from the DVD player in the other speaker. And it was a way for me to create custom soundtracks in a sense. I would turn down the game's music volume all the way, so this way I still had the sound effects of the cars and everything happening on screen while listening to my own custom soundtracks. Yeah, anybody who said that Xbox was the only console with custom soundtracks back in the day, I found a way around it. Aside from the fact that it is a great game, like I said, that memory will always be tangible to me because it was a way for me to get creative to actually implement my own soundtracks in this game. And let's face it, back then, if I wanted to listen to either the Fast and Furious score, Gone in 60 Seconds score, or honestly some Linkin Park, that was a perfect soundtrack to listen to in this game. So next pick for me is Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. So when this came out, I didn't get it at first. It waited many, many months to get my own copy, but I remember going to my buddy Nick's house and he picked it up, and I won't forget that day. We were checking the game out, we were like, wow, the graphics are a huge step up from the PS1 version, and it was the moment that you actually get past the first floor of just waiting for the elevator, and you go up the elevator, and then you have the whole like intro cutscene, because you know the hour and a half intro prior to that wasn't actually the intro until you show the title later on. But I remember we were watching that elevator scene, and the music for that scene, we were like, wow, this is awesome. And I'll never forget when that scene ended, his reaction was like, oh no, we are resetting the game. We are starting that over just to re-listen to that song. And I think we did that, no joke, about 4 times till we finally advanced toward the, more of the game. And I remember like just hanging out at his house that evening when he got it, and I'll always remember that memory with this game. I remember we just played it for hours, just really taking in the experience and comparing it with the PS1 version and seeing like how over the top the cutscenes were, and we laughed at some of it too because it's just how over the top it was, but it was awesome nonetheless. And I'll always have that memory of going to his house and playing this game over there for the first time. And whenever I play this game over and I get to that elevator sequence in the very beginning of the game, like that is the memory that always stands out for me. So Nick, if you're watching this, bro, I hope you remember that because that was some awesome times. So next up is a game that I really loved as well called NHL Hits 2002 or 2002, however you want to say it. This was one of the games I got on Christmas of 2001 with my GameCube, and honestly, this is a game that surprised me quite a bit. I was not the biggest sports game fan at all, but arcade style sports games I was always okay with, like I enjoyed it. But this ended up being one of those games that for months, I had a buddy of mine that would come over after school. We created our own team, we took on our own franchise, and we were all about maxing out our stats for our custom created team and like tweaking it. And the custom team system of creating your own players was super in-depth. And I have so many memories of spending hours and hours and hours tweaking all that, but then also just playing the game with my friends. And it's a shame because I haven't really spoken to him in a long time, but it is a game that I have tangible memories with. And at the end of the day, NHL Hits 2002 was not only just a phenomenal hockey game, but it's one of the best multiplayer experiences. And if you're looking to make memories, this is one game that you can definitely do that with. I just recently held a game night a few months ago, had a few people over from work, a few friends, my brother was over also, and playing this was hysterical. And if you can still have a great time making memories with this game 20 years later, just as I was making memories 20 years prior, I think that's a testament to just how memorable the game was to me and how much fun it also was.
Carter gets the draw. Shoots. Gunner. He passes it to Iceman. No signs of letting up from these boys.
So next up is actually going to be Simpsons Road Rage. So Simpsons Road Rage, I actually have the receipt still for this game. Faded and all, but I can see the date, and I'm going to show this on camera, but it's probably not going to register. It's super faded, but I bought this on January 5th of 2002. And this is a game I have a memory with because it wasn't even the game itself at first, it was the moment I bought the game. I remember being at the Palisades Mall in New York, buying this at the local Best Buy that was there. And if you're from New York or you're in the New York area and you knew what the Palisades Mall was, it was a 4-story mall. But I remember buying this and I was waiting outside the Best Buy, which is on the first floor. And I was with both my brothers and my sister-in-law. We all kind of split up, but I was with my older brother and he had to take a phone call and he said, hey, just wait in front of the Best Buy sign and I'll be right back, I gotta take this call. While my oldest brother and his wife, my sister-in-law, they actually went to a different store. So I was by myself in front of the Best Buy. And I was looking at the box, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to go home and play this game. And then I remember all of a sudden I heard a scream and I looked in front of me and you could see there's a gap in the 4 stories. And all I saw was a person fall from the 4th floor right in front of me. Like no joke, maybe 50 feet away. And I saw him fall and land on top of a garbage can rail. And the sound that emanated and just witnessing that like completely shook me up. I was 13 years old when that happened and I saw that in front of me and that completely shook me up. The crazy part was the guy ended up walking away with a broken wrist and a broken ankle, I think, after falling 4 stories. But I remember that story because I remember that night we also had to go see Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, the first one. Go through 3 hours of that, and then finally get home late enough for me to finally play this game. And I was like, wow, I went through quite a lot, and I've seen quite a lot just to finally go home and play this game. But Simpsons Road Rage actually was a really good game. It's a fun Crazy Taxi clone that, honestly, I know there was a lot of legal issues and those legal battles with this game where Sega basically said it's a blatant clone and they wanted the game pulled off shelves, if I'm not mistaken. But, at the same time, this was just a fun game. And if you had a copy, you knew it was a fun game. And more currently, I was able to actually create a memory with my wife on this one because I found out later on that this was a game she used to play with her friend. So when she found out I had it, we actually played this for a bit years ago. And it was just another memory I got to form with this game. And it's awesome. It's just one of those games that's great to play, whether solo or multiplayer. But yeah, like I said, the game itself, I really like it. But the memory I have tied to it is probably one of my darker memories associated with any game I've purchased, just because I still see it, like I can still see that moment like it was yesterday. But figured I'd share that.
You're faster than Joey Heatherton.
Barney, what are you doing here? What? I can't remember. Oh well. Wow, all right. I promise I'll try my best not to throw up. You have any barf bags? I don't feel so good. I hope you didn't puke. Whoa, I don't feel so good.
Okay, let's lighten things up a bit. So the next pick is going to be Need for Speed Underground 1. So not only is this my favorite Need for Speed game on the GameCube out of all of them, but this game, I remember me and my friend Lewis, we were playing hooky the day before Christmas Eve. I remember we were in high school, he just got his license. He's like, come on, we'll leave, we'll skip school that day, we'll grab sushi, we'll go to the mall, the Palisades Mall, the same one where the guy fell four stories when it got Simpsons. But yeah, I remember going to Target and seeing this on sale for $20 because it was the Player's Choice version. And it was over a year since the game came out. I always wanted it, never got around to buying it. So I remember that day, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna get it. I know it's right before Christmas, it's literally 2 days before Christmas, but this is a game I've always wanted, it's on sale, let me just get it. And I remember having to go to my oldest brother's house and stay there over the night before Christmas Eve, and I brought my GameCube there and I brought this game with me. And I was glued to this game for hours. I remember playing all the way until like 2 or 3 in the morning. I remember it was snowing outside, it was just like awesome feeling. It reminds me of winter for sure. Yeah, this is a game that stuck with me for so long. The amount of detail you can do with the customization of the vehicles and just the overall aspect of the game, the mechanics, everything about this game was phenomenal. This is still hands down my favorite Need for Speed ever made. It's just such a fantastic game, but I have those memories of skipping school and getting this and spending the entire evening before Christmas Eve playing this game and just being so engrossed in it. And this is a game that I could pop on now and still have a blast and just make memories with. I feel like this is one of those games that's also synonymous of the time, alongside movies like Fast and Furious, where it was all about Japanese tuned cars and putting neon lights underneath your car. And that's still cool to me, to be honest with you. So yeah, Need for Speed Underground is a game I'll always remember playing on the GameCube, having memories of just being in my oldest brother's house and playing this game, just spending all those hours customizing cars too. So yeah. Okay, so my next game is actually going to be Def Jam Vendetta. Now, here's a game that I never expected to like anywhere near as much as I actually like this game. So I remember my neighbor at the time, he bought this. He was really big into rap music. I wasn't, but he was also big into wrestling, which I wasn't into that either. Except for wrestling games, like I would actually play those with him. So because of that, I'm like, all right, like I'll play that with you. Cool, let's check it out. And we would always play 4-player. He would always invite 2 other people over, 2 of our other friends over, and we would constantly basically make a battle royale out of this game, just going at it. It was one of those games that it would get so intense with the matches that they would start unplugging each other's controller ports. I'd usually be like the first one out, or just be like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, honestly, it was one of those games that once I finally got myself a copy so many years later that I started to understand the game better in terms of how to play it. But I have all those memories just playing this at my neighbor's house, couch multiplayer, 4 people, just like the intensity of just seeing how close some of the matches were getting and seeing people just run up and pull each other's controller ports out. I'll never forget that. And also more so because unfortunately, recently, about a month ago, one of our friends that used to always play this with us back in the day just passed away. And the first memory I thought of in terms of like memories we had was this, like playing this game. It's kind of one of those surreal moments, aside from that darker notion, but realistic notion. This is a game that I'll always remember playing with friends, and him included.
Take him out! Piece of beef!
So the next game I want to talk about that I have fond memories with is Time Splitters 2. So I was a massive GoldenEye fan and Perfect Dark fan, or just Rareware in general during the N64 days, because, you know, they only got to release one game in the GameCube until Microsoft bought them out and ruined the company. Joking aside, Time Splitters 2 was a throwback to GoldenEye and Perfect Dark days because Free Radical, the developer, was comprised of former GoldenEye and Perfect Dark members. And the game was, to a T, very much like a spiritual successor to those games. So much so that your health and armor were identical to the GoldenEye HUD, and I thought that was awesome. I know a lot of people will say, like, oh, Halo was the first like perfect FPS for a console. I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna say that I think Time Splitters 2 was. I felt like Time Splitters 2 brought so much more frenetic pacing to the gunplay, but it was so incredibly tight and just very well made. Aside from the game being phenomenal, I remember buying this game. I was at the mall, the same mall that I always reference. Another one of those examples of also being a teenager and doing something stupid, because that night I bought this game. They were trying to clear out the mall because there was a bomb scare, I think, or something happened on the first floor. We were on the fourth floor. We were running down the escalators when everybody else was running away because we figured, oh, let's go check it out. What's going on? Ended up being that I think the toilet flooded, but it was like a ridiculous flood. It was like completely covering a part of the first floor, or a few toilets flooded rather. But I remember that night after seeing that, finally getting Friday's game up, and the campaign I thought was excellent. The multiplayer was super addictive, but the part I have the most memories with this game is its map maker. I've sunk in easily hundreds of hours creating either multiplayer maps or campaign missions. This was the first game I remember where you can create your own missions and you can program logic. The instruction booklet shows nothing on how to program anything, and it was all about basically being self-taught, trying to understand basic logic prompts for the AI. Like, you can program the AI of the enemies, with like if and then statements. If this enemy spots you here, then the mission will be a failure, or then more enemies will spawn. And you could set trigger points, and it was so incredibly complex and in-depth, but it was such a brilliant addition that added infinite longevity to the game. I remember I made a game based on my brother's comic book that he used to make back in the day. And I spent so many hours making this game, and I felt proud of it. I'm like, oh, I made like 12 full missions. I even typed in my own briefings, my own objectives. Everything was like ground up built, with all the tools in the game. And then my memory card got tossed away in the garbage when I got the Wii, because for some reason the memory card got tossed with all the wrapping plastic. It sucks, I lost that. To this day, I cannot redo that. But that alone, I have so many memories of that map maker, even sharing it with my friend Nick and having to see like the maps that he made and exchanging maps. This was awesome. If you've never played Time Splitters 2, I would say it's honestly the best FPS on the GameCube, bar none. Okay, so the next one's going to be one that a lot of people will agree with, and one that I think almost everybody who had a GameCube can share those memories with. That was Super Smash Bros. Melee. So I remember getting this on Christmas of 2001, and this was the first game I did pop into my console, and just seeing the evolutionary leap visually, and then just seeing the adventure mode, which is still my favorite single-player mode of any Super Smash Bros. Game to date. Super Smash Bros. Melee was one of those games that no matter who I hung out with, whose house I went to that had a GameCube, whoever came to my house, this was the game we always went to first, or at some point in our multiplayer rotation. I remember when I first got this, and I went even to my neighbor's house who got it on Christmas as well, we would all get together at his house, play 4-player multiplayer, whether it was free-for-all, or 2v2, or 3v1, and oh my gosh, the memories you can form with this game, the memories I formed with this game are countless. If that wasn't enough, one of my favorite memories of this game is also a part of the times it came out. So before, everything was always available at the click of a button on the internet, where everything was instantaneous. Before that time, you didn't know everything that the game was going to have, or you didn't have people spoiling stuff a day before the game even comes out, or weeks before the game comes out. You didn't really know what was going to be included other than whatever was covered in magazines. So when we used to play this, and even doing multiplayer sessions, seeing at the end of a match randomly that a new challenger has appeared, and it's an unlockable character to face and try to unlock, there was so much excitement to that. There was something like, oh my god, I didn't know there was another character in here you could unlock. And you didn't know how many there were. It was just like, okay, let's just keep trying, let's keep playing, until later on, in a magazine, you'll read who all the unlockable characters are, but it wasn't provided prior. You didn't see all that prior. The memories formed there alone are second to none in terms of just the time this game came out and game design in general. No matter what, this is still one of the finest multiplayer experiences on the GameCube, but it's one I'll just never forget. To this day, I even went to a convention near my area that was holding a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate tournament, and incidentally, there were still actually GameCubes hooked up there for people to play Melee because it's so notoriously known for its mechanics being so badass, honestly. So yeah, Super Smash Bros. Melee, I'll never forget this. This is one of the best and one of the most memorable that I had on the GameCube. So next up is going to be one of, if not my favorite game of all time. That is Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 did for me what almost no other game ever does for me anymore nowadays, which was evoke a sense in gaming that was never done before. It was something fresh, it was unique, it was a brilliant direction forward for the series, but mechanically, we had never seen anything as evolved as this. It really set a gold standard for third-person shooters and action horror games moving forward. But yeah, Resident Evil 4, I remember coming out in January of 2005, I was a junior in high school, and I went to my friend's house, and he was actually up to the final boss, and I was like, dude, I don't care, let's just see it. I'm like really excited to see this game in action. And yeah, I was just blown away with what I saw. We even did Mercenaries mode after you unlocked that from beating the game, and that was a blast. And he let me borrow the game for over a month, which was really awesome. Bro, you know who you are, New York Gamer Channel. Thank you again for letting me do that so many years ago. I remember it was during midterms when I was playing this game, and me and one of my other good friends were talking about where we were up to in the game. And I remember he was just like, oh yeah, we'll play chapter 5-1 or like 5-3, and I'm up to the part with Krauser, and like it was just really awesome to be able to compare where you were at. Again, this was in a day before social media where everybody posted everything, and it was really cool to communicate about it in school. But I mean, this game was on a whole nother level. When I finally bought my copy, that was all I played on my GameCube for probably until I got a Wii. And even when I got the Wii, it was the first GameCube game I replayed. But Resident Evil 4 is one of those games that just does everything perfectly. It was even to a point where many months later, my brother came up to my room and he's like, oh my god, you're still playing this game? Like, play something else. I'm like, nope, game's that good. But yeah, this is one of those games I have just so many memories staying up late at night, whether going through the campaign or just going through Mercenaries and trying to perfect my runs and always trying to get a 150 kill combo. Man, great times. I'll never forget this one. Now my last pick is one that I've been clamoring for an HD remaster for since the Wii U. That is FZero GX. FZero GX, I remember when this came out summer of 2003, I had just finished wrapping up doing almost everything in Sonic Adventure DX that entire summer. And I remember I was about 14 years old and my brother had asked me if I wanted to work with him at his deli for a weekend, and I was like, you know what, sure, why not? And not knowing what to expect, it was insane, but it was also a really rewarding experience because it was the first time I remember getting a paycheck. And with some of that paycheck, I went to the mall and I saw FZero GX and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, this came out. I am glad I picked this up when I did because prices have gone up on this a bit, but man, this game, hands down, is my favorite racing game of all time. That's how high up this game is on my list. FZero GX is notoriously known as one of the hardest GameCube games ever made. And I remember when I got it, I stuck with it for weeks. I played for several weeks. And it got to the point where I got so acclimated to the mechanics and to every course and every turn, I was able to beat Master difficulty on every cup and unlock the AX Cup, which was the arcade cup, and even beat that one on Master. And then there's the story mode the game has, which I remember spending weeks on alone, just trying to beat normal difficulty. And I still stuck with it to beat hard and very hard. But man, there's so much content in this game, and there's even a way to create your own vehicles, which is really cool, and that was a first for FZero. So on top of the game having 5 cups, if you include the arcade cup, as well as a full-blown story mode. You also were able to create your own vehicles, which I thought was really cool. You get to buy parts and customize it, the colors, the way it looks. I have so many memories almost breaking my controller in half because of how hard it was. But man, when I beat this on Master difficulty, the feeling I got, oh my gosh, this game is hard, but it is phenomenal. And I remember staying up late at night trying to memorize how to beat some of these missions in the game. Oh my gosh, so many late nighters I pulled playing this game, but it was so worth it. I'll never forget the experience that this game gave me for sure.
You got boost power.
So those are 10 memorable games for me for the GameCube. So like I said, this was supposed to be a range of all consoles, but given the channel is a GameCube-centric channel, I figured it'd be a fun twist to just do GameCube games from my library. Now, it also doesn't mean that these are my top 10 GameCube games of all time, but rather the ones that I remember forming memories with or having a story to share with it. But part of the charm of it is one specific aspect. That is the fact that these are physical media. Physical is always something that'll have a story to tell. Looking at my boxes, I can always look at a game and go like, okay, there's a story behind this. There's a story behind every game that I have. If I go through my entire library behind me, I can sit here and tell you a story of when I bought a game, maybe a memory that's attached to that, and that's something that you can't get from digital. So doing something like this is pretty awesome. That being said, there are 3 channels I'm going to be tagging that I want to see their top 10 memorable games that they've played of all time. Those channels are Jay from Square Pegs, Ren from Hallowed Be Thy Game, and my good buddy, Tiger Chainsaw. So Dave, thank you so much for tagging me in this. I'm really glad I could do a video response on your video to this. I think it's really cool to be able to share those stories and share those memories. And I know this is a video that's different for all you viewers out there. It's a little bit less edited and it's a little bit more raw, but I wanted it to be more personal to you guys. I wanted to share that personal take that I have with some of these games. So I hope you guys all enjoyed that. Stay tuned for more videos on the channel, and I will catch you all later.